Now let's implement infinite scroll on the image gallery. And so the way this is going to work is when you load the page, you're just going to get the first set of images. And then anytime you scroll, that generates a scroll event. And so we're going to add an event listener that handles that scroll event. And what it's going to check is the position of the scroll plus the height of the window, and then it's going to compare that to the length of the document. So it's going to figure out how close to the bottom you are. And if you're within a certain range of the bottom, it's going to fetch the next chunk of images and add them to the gallery view, hopefully before you actually get to the bottom. So that's going to cause the scroll bar to reset, so you can scroll down farther and farther and farther and so on. So it will look like infinite content, even though it's only loading a chunk at a time. And we're doing that for efficiency, and also because, as I said before, you could have hundreds of thousands or even millions of images, so you don't want to really load all of them at once. So let's begin in gallery content by implementing an on-scroll handler that we're going to use to respond to scroll events. So I'm going to declare a function. Let's put it at the top here. Function on scroll, and it's not going to take any parameters. And let's go ahead and store the current scroll top in a local variable so that we can have it later on. If we want to return to this content, we know where to scroll to. So initially that's going to be 0. And when we get our scroll event, we're going to set scroll top to the Windows scroll top. So that's where we are on the page. And then we're going to want to calculate where we are in relation to the bottom. So var distance from bottom, that's going to be equal to scroll top minus the document height and then we want to add the window height to the scroll position to get the bottom of the window. All right, so this is the top of the window. This is the top of the window plus the window height, so the bottom of the window. And then we're subtracting the height of the document. So this is going to give us a negative number that refers to how far in front of the bottom of the document we are. And if that number is greater than some amount of space, then we want to load more content. So I'm going to go ahead and say, for example, if distance from bottom is greater than minus 600, then we want to go ahead and fetch the next set of images. So I'm going to call fetch gallery to do that. And that's going to get a chunk of images. And this is already appending the images to whatever's currently in the gallery, so I don't think this will need to change. But what I do need to change is I need to update the value of end here. And I don't think I need start at all, actually. So let me go ahead and get rid of start, because start's always going to be 0. So let me just go ahead and, after I get this image set, I'm going to add that to end. So like if I've already loaded 50 images and I load another 50 and I get 30 coming back because I hit the end, then n should be 80, and then I add the rest. So one other thing I want to do is just looking at this page, um, I'm on a small window and one click gets me pretty close to the bottom already, and 2 clicks gets me past the bottom. So I don't think that 50 is big enough here. So let's go ahead and make that 100. And then I'm going to go ahead and reload and we'll try it. All right, so this gives me a fair amount of room. I'll have to try this on a bigger, higher resolution window with a bigger browser window. But okay, so that, oh, and I have to attach the on-scroll event handler to the window. So let me go ahead and also add now, it may seem weird that I can refer to a function before I've actually defined the function, but that's one of the features of JavaScript, is it will actually lift these function definitions to the top. It also lifts these variable declarations to the top. So this is actually valid, even though it seems out of sequence. So let's go ahead and see what, oh, I got a chunk. Actually, that seemed like a pretty big chunk. Actually, I did not, well, let's see what I got. It seemed like more than I actually wanted there. So I'm going to look at the network traffic and let's try reloading. So there's my first chunk of images. Okay, and there is my second chunk. Ah, okay, so I'm getting multiple calls to fetch gallery because I have multiple scroll events. So when I drag the scroll bar or click on the scroll bar, that generates multiple scroll events, and each one is going to cause 100 images to be fetched from the gallery. So what I want to do is wait until the first one is finished before doing another one. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep track of whether I'm currently scrolling or not, currently fetching or not. And if I am fetching, I'm just going to return from the onScroll event. And then let's go ahead and do this. So I'm going to var scrolling is false. And then in onScroll, first thing I'm going to do is if scrolling return. Otherwise, I'm not scrolling yet, so I'm going to start scrolling. And then the fetch happens, which requires AJAX, and the gallery gets updated. And then here at the very end, scrolling is false. So only one gallery fetch can happen at a time. So now let's try it and see what we get. Oh, so I have an error. So I'm not sure why that wasn't loading before, but it seems to be working okay now. Something seems to be really slow here. So let's go ahead and scroll, 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 scroll. So I'm going to go ahead and put a breakpoint there. Oops, not there. Here. And a breakpoint here. And let's reload. So the first one fetched. And actually, since I start by calling fetch gallery, I also want to start with scrolling true. So that will not allow me to execute the onScroll method event handler until after I've loaded the initial starting page. So let's try it now. Okay, and then scroll, 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 scroll. So I don't seem to be calling my handler here. Oh, my breakpoint's gone away. So I'm on the scroll. Scrolling is false. So that means I'm able to take scroll events. So there's my scroll event. And now I'm going to move the breakpoint here. Oh, okay. So that's the other thing. If I don't call fetch gallery, I have to reset this to false. Okay, so that's what's happening. So if that, I fetch gallery, else I reset scrolling. All right, so let's try it now. Oop, it worked. So as I get to the bottom, it fetches more images. And there I'm at the very end. So that's all the images I have uploaded right now.